Hello everybody and welcome to episode 113 of the Let's Play world. Today we are going to work on some redstone. We're definitely going to get some stuff done in the city and the subway as well, but redstone is really a priority. It's been a while since I've done a big redstone project and I'm very excited to do one. Last episode we were talking a little bit about the map and some of the plans here, and like I was saying, there's just this kind of side over here to finish up in the city, and then that project is done. Between episodes, I did a little bit of work over here, kind of laying out these skyscrapers, and we also wanted to add a stadium, a casino, and a music project. And I think the music project is what we're going to work on today. I have an idea to do kind of like a music venue, like it looks like a club or like a place where you'd go and see a concert, but I want it to be a place where you can also make music. So I want there to be kind of like a random music generator, and then maybe an instrument that you can play as well. But first thing first, I want to get another subway station done. The first one we did was down here by our Conservatory of Flowers, and that one looked very much like the DC Metro. And then last episode we did one over here in the East Village that had a very New York kind of look. Today I want to do the station that's over here in the West Village, and I want it to look like a Chicago-style subway stop. We are going to gather up some materials here. I think I'm going to need some quartz. I still have a fair amount. Grab some more here. We're going to fly out towards the city here, and maybe in the distance you'll see a couple of new buildings pop up here. I still haven't finished this sandstone one completely. And back here, you're going to see a couple other that are under construction here and here. So still filling it out, looking really good. But today we're going to spend some time, like I said, over here in the West Village. This stop. Hello. This stop goes out to the East Village, where we were working last episode. And then this is the end of the line that's going to go downtown. I was working a little bit on a circuit here. So what happens is when the minecart comes along, it goes up and then hits this unpowered rail, which stops it. And then if you hit one of these buttons, it powers them again and sends it on its way. And that'll work in either direction. So I think that is what I'm going to do to make the minecart stop. And then if you want to continue on, you just hit the button and off it goes. We'll test it out, but first let's build the station. So if we want to take the subway from the East Village to the West Village, we're going to go on the green line here. We'll hop in our minecart, send it on its way. And we'll go through the tunnel like we did last episode. And like I was saying, this next station I did in kind of a Chicago style. They have kind of these kind of tubes underground that are sort of like white tile and concrete and really, bright fluorescent lights. We're coming up on the stop here, and we'll just stop right here on the rails. Now, if I wanted to continue, I could hit this button, and that'll send us on our way. But first, we're going to check out the station. So we've got these little markers here so that we don't walk off onto the tracks. This is going to go to the purple line, which is our downtown stop. And then we can continue on the green line to the zoo. And you can see I used quartz to kind of mimic that white tile. Got the fluorescent lighting and kind of that roundish shape. I'll put a little picture up on the screen so you can see kind of my inspiration. But I think it turned out really good. And that is basically half of our subway stops. There are 6 in total, and that's 3 down. The next 3 stops I'm going to do in a similar style. So I'll do a DC Metro style, I'll do a New York style, and another Chicago style. But we might vary them up just a little bit. If we hop in the minecart and then we hit the button, it'll send us on our way through this big ravine. I'm not sure if I want to block that off or not. We go down a nice long tunnel that I finished in exactly the same way, with the intermittent frog lights, the slabs on the ceiling and the floor, and the powered rails about every 12 blocks. And we're going to turn right into the station here for the zoo. And of course, like I said, I haven't done anything here yet. And when we walk upstairs, that is our zoo station. From the zoo, I want to walk over to where the casino is going to be. A whole bunch of stuff over here. So, we cross the bridge. I put a gate here so that when villagers fill up this area, they don't wander into the zoo. We don't want them, like I said, escaping or getting away. I built a couple of little buildings over here. This is just a little, like, imagine it's an old building, like the old city. You know, like there's a river here and the bay, and this was maybe some sort of shipping depot or something like that, but it like is an antiquated old waterfront building. And then this building, just a real simple little building that might be like, I don't know, a museum or a design studio, who knows, but just kind of a funky, modern looking build. Right next to a little bit of a drab build, just kind of blue and gray. I haven't put any windows in here yet, but I did the windows a little bit more horizontal, which I think is a nice contrast to a lot of our tall windows. Right next to this is the Empire State Building, our Apple Store. And as we get down here, got our really tall residential building with the auto dealership down here. This that you're seeing there is just a facade. It is just a wall. It's not actually a building, but I noticed I could see sky and it looked a little weird. And I did the same thing here. This is not really a full building. It's just kind of a little stacked thing to make it look a little more full when we're standing here. And I think it does the job. We pop through here. Again, nothing actually happening there, just a little wall. And I built this pile of stone, basically. Not very exciting, but I think it fits in nicely and is a good contrast to some of these other buildings. It's just stone and regular glass. I just did stairs on the top and bottom to add a little bit of texture. But I just wanted to kind of fill in this back wall, and I wanted to center this building on the street. That way, when we're standing down here, looking this way, there won't be any sky. It'll just look like skyscrapers. This is kind of a cool facade down here. This kind of pointy, real gothic looking kind of build. And then just andesite with some windows that I haven't put in there yet. This side and the back I haven't filled in yet either. Next door, there'll be probably a little bit of a shorter building. And another building, again, here, I imagine. And then this is going to be our Salesforce building once I figure out what materials to actually build it out of. I'd asked you guys if you had some ideas, and I didn't get any responses, so I don't know if anybody has any good ideas on how to make something look like it's made out of shiny metal and glass. You know, like, I know gray concrete or maybe iron blocks. Hard to say. As we walk down here, I think this is likely where we're going to put the stadium. It's right here, because we have a fair amount of space. I might get rid of this street because the stadium, I imagine, is going to take up a fair amount of space. As we come down here, not sure exactly how we want to lay this out, but we'll probably have a couple of buildings. One of them will be a little casino or gaming kind of building. One of them will be the music venue, and we'll have a building here at our subway stop that might look either like a government building or a historic building. We'll figure that out. But that's kind of my plan, and that should finish up our city. Did a little bit of digging here just to pull things away from the street a little bit. We don't really need to level the whole thing because we'll probably just build into the side here and call it good. But today I want to work on that musical build. And I think I want to put it a little bit further down here, like it's the last thing on the street. And like I was saying, I kind of want to make it like a club or a music venue, like somewhere where you would go to see music. And I want it to have a redstone contraption that'll just create some random music, and then also the ability to play some music. So it's time to bust out the redstone. Okay, I've got a bunch of stuff here. So I've got some note blocks, I've got some droppers, and then I've also got some materials that we're going to use in here as well. And I have an idea of how this is going to work, and I'll sort of explain it as I go. First thing we got to do is make some room. And of course it starts raining. So what we're going to do is down here, we're going to have a little building to kind of finish off this row. And then right here, this is going to be the music venue. And it's going to be about 15 blocks wide. I just need to clear out some of this area here. For those of you who wanted to join me Monday on my live stream, that turned out to be a total disaster, unfortunately. I hadn't streamed in a long time, and when I sat down to set things up, all the software needed to be updated. I couldn't get my audio to work. And once I fixed the audio in the streaming app, then the audio wasn't working on the rest of the computer, and so I had to kind of scrap it. So I've been working this week a little bit on getting the stream software set up properly, getting it reconnected with YouTube so that it will stream and all of that. So hopefully next time I will be free of technical difficulties. I'd also posted a poll on YouTube asking if you wanted me to do some data packs while we wait for 1.20 to come out. I could do something where we have some like unique weapons or unique armor or some more difficult mobs. And it was a pretty mixed result. About 75% of you were for it, and about 25% of you wanted me to keep things vanilla. Now, I definitely want to preserve the vanilla experience. I'm not looking to mod the game or totally change things. I just thought it might be fun while we're waiting for 1.20 to come out to have a couple of quests to go on to find some, prize armor or maybe fight a couple of boss mobs, that kind of thing. So maybe we'll explore that again in a little bit. We've definitely got plenty on our plate right now. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of space to work with. I was doing a little bit of playing in a creative world, and I figured out a system that I think works pretty well. The trick was it was very, very large. And so I want to see if I can do the same sort of thing, but condense it. Now we're going to have a couple of different things going on. The first thing we're going to have is a drum loop, something that just makes a beat for us to have music going over. So I want to make a little drum loop. And then we're also going to have kind of like almost like a wind chime, like a randomized music maker. So we'll just turn it on and it will randomly make some music. And then the third thing I want to have is an actual instrument, like a little keyboard or something that we can play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig down a little bit because I think we're going to have to stack one of these things on top of the other. Now the way note blocks work is if you put them on top of different materials, they make different sounds, and then you can tune them. So if we set a note block here and I hit it, it'll make kind of like a kick drum sound. And then you can tune it up to 2 octaves in half steps. You kind of see it going up there. And then it repeats. If I put something else underneath this block here, let's say I put some sand, now it's going to make more of a snare drum. And there's lots and lots of different blocks that make different sounds. So we're going to use, I believe, stone, we're going to use wood, we're going to use sand, and we're going to use packed ice. Okay, so basically what I want to do here is I want to make a square. So we'll put a note block in each of these corners. And then note blocks are basically just redstone blocks. So we're going to pull a signal out of this one, pull a signal out of this one, pull a signal out of this one, and pull a signal out of this one. And then if we get some redstone dust, we should be able to connect them. There we go. And I'm going to put a bunch of delay on this because I don't want it to all get powered at the same time. I want a pulse to be able to kind of travel around this. So let's see, if I put a button here and I send a pulse, it's going to start going around the circle. That's pretty good. And see, it's not quite catching up with itself. I think I might add one more repeater each of these, just so we can add one more tick of delay. I just don't want it to be too fast where it all ends up getting powered at the same time, because then it will stop if everything ends up getting power at the same time. That's pretty good, I think. Now, one other thing that's important is if you do a note block and there's something on top of it, that will actually silence it. You can see that one's not making any noise there. There we go. So it is important that you have one space of air above your note block. Okay, now hypothetically, we should have kind of like a kick snare thing happen. That's great. Okay, drum machine part is basically done. Now on top of our drum machine, I want to repeat this, except on the corners, instead of note blocks, we're going to do droppers. Okay, so we repeated that whole thing up top, but with droppers rather than note blocks. So now I just need a way to make it so I can turn it on and off. Okay, I think I figured this thing out here. So along the back, I've got a button up here, and I think that button is going to be at floor level. And this button is just on top of a dropper, and then this dropper system here, it's basically a little T flip-flop. So right now, this dropper will shoot an item into this hopper. The hopper will drain it into this dropper, and then this dropper is facing upwards. So right now there's a single item here. When I push this, it will flow down in here, and the comparator will sense that there is something in there and send out a signal. When I push this again, this gets powered, which then powers this, fires the item up, which kills the signal to the comparator. So this little thing here, these three little pieces, basically turn a button into a lever. So I can push this button to turn the system on, push it again to turn it off. And what's going on here is this comparator is powering a sticky piston with some slime on it. And you can see the circuit right now is broken. This repeater doesn't run into anything. So if some redstone came along here, it would stop. But when we extend this, that will complete this circuit and that circuit down there, so that these two loops can run continuously. And then when we push the button, it'll break the loops and stop the signal. On the other side of the T flip-flop, I've got a repeater. So when I push the button, that signal will come along here, get split, and it'll send a pulse into this, which will start this loop, and it comes down here to our drum loop and we'll start that loop. So I'll show you what it sounds like. What you're going to hear is you're going to hear the drum loop start, and you're going to hear these droppers fire. I push it, it should stop. There we go. So we have a way to start and stop this. On the bottom, we've got a little drum loop, and up top we've got a bunch of droppers. Now what we're going to do with the droppers is we're going to point hoppers back into them, and we're going to turn these into little randomizers. Hey, look at that, my 100 is oxidizing. Super cool. Basically what's going on here is I'm putting a single item and a non-stackable item in each of these droppers. So when a signal hits the dropper, it's going to randomly spit out either a non-stackable or stackable item. And this comparator is going to read the hopper, and if it is a stackable item, we'll just get a little bit of a signal, but if it's a non-stackable item, we're going to get a bigger signal. Okay, this is getting pretty cool here. So on each of these little randomizers, I have a comparator, and the comparator comes out and runs into a note block, and then goes a little further, repeater, another note block. And you'll see it here too. There's a comparator that goes to a note block, a little further, repeater, note block. And the same thing here. Comparator, note block, a little further, repeater, note block. So when the stackable item gets spit out, this note block will definitely go off, but it's not enough signal to get all the way here. When the non-stackable item gets put in here, that signal will make this one go off, and it will make this one go off. And I have this one on a little bit of a delay, so it hits just a little bit after this one. So all the way around, there's a note block going off, and then the possibility of a second note block going off. The other thing I did is next to the snare, you can see down there, I added another note block on top of a wood plank, so we get a bass note. So there's a bass note that hits with every kick drum as well. Right now, these are all tuned to the same note, so I haven't changed anything yet. But what I'm planning on doing is coming up with a chord or something that's kind of interesting, and then making all of these different notes so that we get kind of that wind chime sort of feeling. I'll show you what it sounds like right now, though. You can hear that drum loop going and the bass hitting on every single kick drum. And then you can see as we go around, sometimes we get notes and other times we don't. Pretty cool. Okay, I went through and I doubled up all of the blocks. So as the signal goes around, every single time these two will go off, and every single time these two will go off, every single time these two will go off, and then when we get the extended signal, I added a second note at the end of that. So the result is it's a lot more dense sounding. I also varied the bass notes a little bit. I'll let you hear it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I guess the only thing left really is to put a floor on top of this, and then we can build a building, and we can build some sort of musical instrument for us to actually interact with. And that's where we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Please like and subscribe if you want to follow along on the adventure, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.